Sunday. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. We have week 12 starting in about an hour and a half here. We already had the games on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, so not a huge slate today, but nonetheless, it should be a really fun day today. No teams are on bye, so this is a huge week for fantasy, and it's week 12. We got 2 more weeks, weeks 13 and 14 left for the regular season. So it's a huge week. Hopefully we can get you guys the W. We're going to hang out for the next half an hour or so. And basically, I'm just going to go over the actives and get you guys caught up on all the injury updates. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions, please fire them away in the chat and we'll get those answered as soon as they come through. But either way, I'm going to start with some of the updates that I'm getting here through Twitter. And I like Underdog NFL. They have a very good system of letting you guys know what's up. So the first one that I'm seeing here is Zay Jones is active for week 12. He played last week and he played a little bit, but now that the Jags are back in their 3 wide receiver sets, I like that for Trevor Lawrence. Dameon Pierce is active for the first time in a few games here. Not sure what the split is going to be with him and Devin Singletary. I think what I've seen for the most part, when I was looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook stuff, they have Devin Singletary for about 10.5 carries, and I believe Dameon Pierce for about 7.5 carries. So we'll see how those 2 guys share the backfield for the first time here. I would still imagine Singletary's the lead back. There is a report here from Rappaport saying the Steelers to focus on targeting George Pickens, giving more carries to Jalen Warren. Of course, Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, was let go after last week's pretty poor offensive outing. And I agree. I think we're going to see them lean into their better players. And I think everyone kind of sees that Jalen Warren is the better back over Najee. Najee's not going to go away, but hey, Jalen Warren is still going to be heavily used in this offense. And yeah, we need more targets for George Pickens and hopefully Deontay Johnson as well. The Patriots are going with Mac Jones today, but it's saying that Bailey Zappi is also likely going to be in the mix. So not sure how that's going to happen. A little bit of a quarterback carousel here for the Patriots. It's a really ugly game. Patriots-Giants, that's one of my least favorite games. Probably is my least favorite game for this week. And a note on Aaron Rodgers here with his Achilles. He could begin practicing next week, still targeting week 16 return. So that's pretty interesting. For the Ravens game tonight, Ravens-Chargers, Odell Beckham expected to play week 12. Gerald Everett likely to play in week 12 in that same game. Marquise Brown expected to play. These are all notes that came out from last night. I did see Rachaad White he came up with a knee injury on the practice report. Not sure what happened with that, but he is expected to play. So we'll monitor any more of those updates that come through our way. But I did want to let you guys know I uploaded some of the DraftKings props to the website here. I'm just going to read over my top 10, and this is not betting advice. These are just this is just a guy making some lists here of some prop bets that he likes. On the season so far, I'm at about 54% correct. I've hit 46 props out of 85, so we're slightly above 50% there, which is nice. The anytime touchdowns that I like today, Derrick Henry, who's plus 110. Jerome Ford against the Broncos, Travis Kelce against the Raiders, Jalen Hurts will get that push in there. And then I like Stephon Diggs today. And then some of the other individual props that I like today, Devonta Smith over his prop of 57.5 receiving yards, Rashid Shaheed over his 37.5 receiving yards, Josh Downs over his 49.5 receiving yards. And then I have a sneaky one here for you. Desmond Ridder over 13.5 rushing yards, minus 110. The Saints are really bad against allowing quarterbacks to get rushing yards here. So I think you do want to target that. I'm pulling it up real quick right here. I want to check out my fantasy points allowed numbers. Let me see real quick. In terms of rushing yards allowed to the quarterback, the Saints rank 29th. So they've allowed almost 300 rushing yards to QBs this year. Ridder can move. So I think that's a pretty low-hanging fruit prop there. And then Evan Ingram was the last one, over 4.5 receptions. But I did put a list on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you guys want to check it out, you can check out my top 10 props. And then all the props to consider there can be listed below. But yeah, otherwise, no questions coming in today this morning yet. I'm just going to hit refresh on some of my feeds here and see if there's any more news and notes that we need to update today. Darius Slayton will be active today. Very interesting. He was listed as doubtful with a neck injury, but he improved. So good news there for the Giants offense, at least. We'll see if Tommy DeVito can put together another strong effort today. Looking around here, there's really not too many news and notes from this morning. I'm seeing a lot of Rodgers stuff here on the Twitter saying that he is highly on watch here. I'm excited for the Bengals today. Jake Browning. Obviously, the Bengals season is pretty much lost with the Burrow injury, but we're going to get a look here at Jake Browning as a starter. If you have Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, maybe even T. Higgins, you're hopeful that Jake Browning can do something of use here. And I wouldn't be, if you still have a no trade deadline in your fantasy leagues, I'm not willing to sell Jamar Chase just yet. I want to see how this day looks today. I expect Jamar Chase to get heavily involved in the game plan. He should be the primary target for Jake Browning today. So hold on to your Bengal shares here. And yeah, Joe Mixon should feed into that as well. Tons of touches coming for Joe Mixon. Interesting slate this morning here. I do want to look at the schedule real quick and see what we got brewing here. In the early games today, New Orleans at Atlanta. That game's fun because the NFC South, man, it's totally up for grabs still. You have Tampa Bay also playing the Colts here, so we'll monitor that. But the Saints at 5-5 lead the NFC South. Falcons and the Bucks are both 4-6, so that division is one to keep an eye on. So I like that game a lot. New Orleans at Atlanta. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Again, you have the Joe Burrow, Jake Browning situation going on, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Excited to see what that looks like. Cincinnati's defense is pretty decent, but we'll see if Pittsburgh does indeed give their playmakers the ball a little bit better than the week before. You have Carolina at Tennessee. This game's kind of ugly here. We'll see if Bryce Young can get something going here on the road. I'm expecting a heavy Derrick Henry day. He's been one of the guys that I lock into most of my DraftKings lineups today. And I think Tennessee at home, it could be nice. Tennessee's not having a great year. They're 3-7. A win this week would go a long way. They're by no means in the playoff race here as they rank as one of the worst teams. They rank 15th in the AFC, so it's not looking good for them. But hey, a win can do a lot of things for a team that needs wins. Tampa Bay at Indianapolis. This game could be actually pretty high scoring. I'm kind of excited about this game. I'm just looking at the over-under in this one. Tampa Bay's defense, man, you can't run on them, but you can pass. I think with the over-under being 45, I'm expecting Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin to be heavily utilized today. I don't know what's going on with Rachaad White. I haven't really clicked on Rachaad White in a lot of my DraftKings lineups, but I think Baker Mayfield in the passing game for the Bucks can be a thing. And then Gardner Minshew, man, throwing to Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. That's been one of my popular stacks in DraftKings this morning. So I'm excited about that game. The Jags and the Texans might be one of the better games in the early slate here. There's only one, two, three, four, five. There's only 6 games starting in about an hour and 20 minutes. And then the late slate, the Rams, Cardinals. Kyler Murray's good TV. We get Cooper Kupp back and Puka Nacua and Kieran Williams. Maybe the Rams have a little bit of fun on offense here as they get their whole off. It's been a while since we've seen this entire offense as a unit. I think the Rams might be having some fun today. So I don't mind, Ram stacks with Stafford, Kieran, whether it's Puka or Kupp. It's hard to trust Cooper Kupp, especially coming into this game with the low ankle sprain. He really has been struggling the last month or so as well. So I'm finding it hard to trust Cooper Kupp. I think Puka Nacua is looking like the better play still. We get an interesting game here. The Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. Don't look now, but man, it's hard to believe the Browns are sitting at 7-3, the 5th seed in the AFC. And the Broncos, man, if they win today at home, they're 5-5. They could toss their name into that 6th or the 7th seed here in the AFC. So the Broncos are heating up. That's probably going to be a pretty heavy defensive game here with Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting for the Browns. This could go either way. I think Denver wants to run the ball with Javonte Williams and use Samaje and Jaleel McLaughlin. Cortland Sutton's in your lineups, obviously. I think Denver's got an interesting case here. And I can't believe the Browns sitting at 7-3 continue to play good football here despite they've played PJ Walker, they played Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and yet they still remain as one of the better AFC teams because of that defense. The other game here in the late slate, this is probably the game of the day. I think it's Buffalo at Philadelphia. That game could be high scoring. It's probably it's the highest employed point total of the early games here. So 48.5 points in this one. Get your Bills, get your Eagles. I've seen a lot of questions with Devonta Smith, and I think you gotta get Devonta Smith in your lineup today, especially with no Dallas Goedert. You want Devonta Smith in your lineups for sure. And then Chiefs Raiders. Chiefs are 9-point favorites on the road here. Pat Mahomes in the offense has been struggling. I fully expect the Chiefs to get the ball rolling here with Kelsey and Pacheco. Good morning to Manny. Hope you're doing well, buddy. And Paul and Jackie Bauer saying, will the Steelers have offensive explosion with the new OCs? I don't know if I would say offensive explosion for the Steelers today. I think we're going to see. I want to see efficiency over explosion, because they have explosive playmakers with George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. I think Pat Fryermuth being back, he played last weekend, but he didn't really get too involved in the offense. So it's good to have this is literally the healthiest the offense has been all season. They've had parts where Deontay wasn't playing, but Pat was. They've had parts where Deontay was playing and Pat wasn't. So it's setting up good for the offense. It's a bit of a tough matchup against the Bengals, not going to lie, but the fact that they're 2.5 point favorites today bodes pretty well. And basically, they just need they need to give Kenny Pickett some layup throws. He needs to hit Deontay Johnson and Pat underneath. He needs to take his shots to George Pickens. And the report from Rappaport this morning said they want to get George Pickens more involved. I think Matt Canada and the offense, they were not very creative with George Pickens. They have him running a lot of simple routes, a lot of go routes, and a lot of like drags and things like that. I'd like to see them expand his route tree a little bit and get him more involved on some of the shorter, quick hitting things like that. I think a comp for George Pickens is to me it's Christian Watson. They can use Christian Watson in more ways, and I think George Pickens can be a little bit used a little bit more creatively. So I don't know if it's an explosion, but I think higher efficiency is coming for the Steelers. I finally want to see Jalen Warren hop Najee Harris in terms of like touches and snaps and things like that. So I think hopefully just rational coaching wins in this situation. So I'm thinking it's going to be fun today. We need to see a high percentage clip from Kenny Pickett and hopefully again more touches for Jalen Warren, because I think the more that Jalen Warren touches the ball, the better the Steelers' offense is in moving the ball and getting first downs and things like that. So I wouldn't say explosion, but I think efficiency is the word for the Steelers today. But fun battle there, Steelers at the Bengals, and yeah, the Steelers, man, they keep winning games, dude. This is a very winnable game for them. They're sitting here as the 7th seed. Baltimore, obviously 8-3. They're a good game and a half back from them. If the Chargers were able to do some stuff tonight and upset the Ravens, I think that would open things up for the Steelers. But as it stands right now, we have 3 AFC North teams in the playoffs right now. So it's a fun race. And yeah, I think the really fun game today is that Philadelphia Buffalo Bills game. The Bills at 6-5, they cannot afford to lose. They're already out of the playoffs right now. They're the 8th seed currently, but they need to win that game today to get their season back on track. I'm looking at a couple more things here today. Active: Rashad White, Damian Pierce, Zay Jones, Devontae Parker, and Darius Slayton. Some inactive players today: Kendry Miller, Jimmy Graham, Terrace Marshall Jr. Nothing really to note there for fantasy football. And then I do, I mean, I'm in the Midwest here, and it's snowing currently right now. So I'm gonna pull up. I'm going to pull up the NFLweather.com here and just let you guys know if there's any bad weather that we have to be aware of today. Saints and Falcons are in a dome, so nothing to note there. I'm seeing definite rain in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, so that might put a damper on some of the explosiveness here for that Steelers offense. But definite rain here, 10-mile-per-hour winds in Cincinnati. Carolina at Tennessee. It's saying a chance of rain, but it actually looks okay there, 54 degrees, a little bit of wind, and just a small chance of rain there. Tampa Bay at the Colts. That game's in a dome, so good news there. And then New England at New York Giants. It says a chance of rain, seeing 48 degrees, so it looks like it's going to be okay. Jags in the Houston Texans. That one's in a dome, nothing to worry about there. Cleveland and Denver. I'm seeing clear, sunny, 5-mile-per-hour winds. It's a high of about 40, so decent football weather there in Denver. Rams and the Cardinals are in a dome. Chiefs and the Raiders are in a dome. And then I am seeing a chance of rain here in Philadelphia for the Buffalo game. 48 degrees, 8-mile-per-hour winds there. And then, yeah, we got 2 dome games in the Sunday night football game and the Monday night football game. So not too much weather going on here. Thankfully, again, it's snowing in the Midwest today. We woke up to about 1 inch of snow. So we're there. It's time of season where the weather gets cold, and we're going to see more running, I think, this week. I'm going to hit refresh on some of my feeds here and see if I can find any more final news and information for you guys. And again, if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the chat. I can answer any start sit questions you may have. And maybe we, since we don't really have a lot of questions going on today, maybe I open up DraftKings and we look at some fun lineups here. Just looking around for any other actives and actives right now, but everything looks pretty good. I think we're looking like we got all the information. The T. Higgins not playing today makes a lot of sense. He's in a contract year. He wants to make sure he's healthy, and I don't know if we need him too much today. But let's see what we got here. Good morning to Aiden. Hope you're doing well, bud. I'm still stuck in my flex spot. It's between Olave, Singletary, and Connor. Olave, Singletary, and Connor. I think just the presence alone of Dameon Pierce coming back shies me a little bit away from Singletary. The Jags defense is not necessarily amazing. We could see Singletary have a nice day today. But I think I'm looking at Olave and Connor as the guys that I really like. As far as James Conner, I mean, we know he's the bell cow back. I think taking the volume from James Conner makes a lot of sense to me. I think he can be a fun play today. But man, Chris Olave, I mean, we drafted him in the second or third rounds. It's against Atlanta. It's a little bit, tougher of a matchup here, but I think I'm going to lean with Chris Olave. You have no Michael Thomas today. I expect Olave to hit upwards of 10 plus targets. So to me, if it's full PPR there, Manny, I'm going to go Olave. I think the safe play is James Conner just because he's going to get volume, whether it's 15 carries and 3 or 4 receptions. And then I think the guy that I'm most nervous about is Singletary. So I would rank them as Olave, Connor, the safe play, and Singletary would be my third favorite play here. But I think Connor could be nice. It's a tough game, going up against the Rams. Rams defense is actually a lot better than people give them credit for. So I think I'm sticking with my stud, Chris Olave. But hey, the good news is if these are your flex decisions, Manny, I think you have a good team this week. Aiden coming in hot with the Dobbs or Kyler Murray question. Dobbs has just been so good, man. And the fantasy points allowed dictate that you probably got to go with the guy playing the Bears. I'm just going to double check those fantasy points allowed real quick for you and see what we got. Let me see here. In terms of fantasy points allowed to the quarterback, the Chicago Bears, they rank 23rd. They're allowing about 18 points per game here in the quarterback position, whereas Kyler Murray going up against the Rams rank 18th. They allow about 17 points per game. It could happen here, but I think the Bears have allowed the most passing touchdowns or the second most passing touchdowns to quarterbacks on the season here. So I'm liking Dobbs to throw 1 or 2, and the dude's been on a heater with the rushing touchdown. So I think I'm going to lean Josh Dobbs here at home against Chicago, Monday Night Football. It should be fun. Thoughts on ETN anytime TD? ETN's been interesting, man. I mean, he was on that tear, in October leading into the November month here, but he really hasn't done much over the last few games. I think he is the highest favorited player to score in that game, and he hasn't scored a touchdown since week number 8. They had the bye week 9. Tough game against San Francisco, tough game against Tennessee. I think the game against Houston today, Houston's okay. They rank, about average against running backs here. They let Cincinnati rush for a touchdown. They let Rashad freaking White score 2 rushing touchdowns a couple of weeks ago. So I kind of like it. I think ETN is a player that bounces back today and probably has a nice fantasy day here. So I like ETN on the ground today. I'm going to throw Kieran in with confidence. I mean, Kieran Williams, man, he's been that first month, man, he was a bell cow back. He was getting, almost 20 touches a day or a game, and he was falling into the end zone. The dude had 2 touchdowns week 1, 2 touchdowns week 2 against the 49ers. He had 2 touchdowns against the Colts in week 4 and another touchdown week 6. I think that was the last game that he played. But man, dude's got 7 touchdowns on the year. The chances of him even, putting up, maybe 50 to 70 yards and getting that touchdown, I think makes sense to me. And even when Kieran Williams was out, the Rams offense has showed us that they like to run the ball in for touchdowns when they get near the goal line. So I think I'm confidently starting Kieran Williams. To me, he looks like a top 15-ish back. I don't know if I'm ready to call him, a running back 1 quite in his first game back here, because you still might see Royce Freeman get a little bit of touches here and there as they're getting Kieran Williams back up to speed. But I think I'm starting Kieran Williams with confidence today. It's against the Arizona Cardinals. And man, the Cardinals defense, man, they rank 30th against running backs. They've allowed a touchdown in 4 straight games to running backs here, and that's a total of 6 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks here. So I'm starting Kieran Williams with confidence today, Aiden. We need ETN to win today. It's a tough game, dude. If I remember correctly, didn't the Texans? I think they kind of kicked the pants off the Jags earlier in the season. I think it was like week 2 or 3. Yeah, the Texans won 37-17 in that game. I'm just looking at the box score right now. Travis Etienne, 19 carries for 88 yards. He added 4 for 50 as a receiver, so he did put up a good 19 or 18.8 points in that game. And the only touchdown from the Jags in that, well, they had 2 touchdowns. One to Tank Bigsby back when Bigsby was still kind of a thing, and Christian Kirk did catch the ball. So for the Jags, I'm heavily interested in Evan Ingram today for DFS. I think he's got one of the better matchups for tight ends. Let me double check here. I believe the Texans are the worst team. They're the second worst team against the tight end position here. So they allow a lot of points to the tight end position. I think Ingram's heavily involved. I want to see the running game. And then the 3 wide receiver sets are back. Henderson isn't on the active roster today. Okay. Yeah, so Henderson's just going to be the practice squad guy. I don't know who their 3rd running back is, but I don't think Henderson plays special teams, so that makes sense. I still think Royce is going to be a little bit involved, but I'm hoping it's the Kieran Williams 15 to 20 touch day right out of the gate. Yeah, dude, it's for me. So the way that I play fantasy football is I like to add players a week or 2 early, and it's starting to look like Dearness Johnson might be the handcuff that you're looking for in Jacksonville. If you have Travis Etienne, I think you should maybe look at adding Dearness Johnson too, just in case anything happens to Etienne, you have the primary backup. Because I think if something were to happen to Etienne, you're going to see Dearness Johnson be the lead back, and Bigsby get a little bit more work than he's getting now, but he really hasn't proven to be a guy that you want on the field. He's led to he's had I think a couple fumbles or 2, and he's had a few passes go off his hands that get intercepted. So it's been a rough rookie season for Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson. If you have room on the end of your bench, this is the time in the season where I like to add backup running backs. And to me, it looks like it looks like Dearness is kind of the clear backup running back there. So I like it. Good morning to Harris. Hope you're doing well, bud. Is Puka Mustard even with Cup trying to play? I mean, we've seen the offense, and it's got room for 2 receivers. Even before Cooper Kupp was playing, we saw Tutu and Puka both hit. I'm still starting Puka Nacua with confidence. It's a decent matchup here for him. The Cardinals defense doesn't really scare us, so I'm starting Puka with confidence here. The Cardinals have allowed a wide receiver touchdown in 3 straight games. It's a good matchup here. I'm playing Puka. I think he's more of a wide receiver 2/3 today, somewhere around wide receiver 20. But I still expect him to get his fair share of 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 targets in this one. And even though Cooper Kupp is playing today, doesn't mean it's 100%. There is a risk with Cooper Kupp today. He could go out and aggravate that injury, or he could just be not 100%, and he could be just kind of running some decoy routes and things like that. So I still like Puka. I still like Kupp in my lineups today. You have to play Kupp if you have him, but I think Puka might be the better play today between the 2. And yeah, it's a good matchup there. It might be kind of fun. It might be kind of like a shootout there. Rams Cardinals, man. It might be kind of a fun shootout type of game. But I'm looking around for any more news and updates. Let me see if I got anything for you guys. It looks like we're in pretty good shape today. Nothing crazy that I'm seeing here. Good morning to David Phillips. He's asking Gus Edwards or Jerome Ford. I do like both players today. I think for me, I'm going with Gus Edwards, who's been a touchdown machine. You're getting a sweet matchup here against the Chargers. It's one of the Chargers defense is not good, man. It's arguably one of the worst defenses in the league here. So I think getting Gus Edwards in my lineup makes a lot of sense. He's been on a heater. He's got a touchdown in 5 straight games. And 3 of those 5 games, he's been over 20 fantasy points. He's got multiple touchdowns in 3 of those 5 games. I'm going to ride the hot hand here. And then I do like that he's starting to get more involved as a receiver, whether it's 1 or 2 catches per game. He never used to get those, especially early in the season. He wasn't getting targeted, but it seems like now he's stepping up into a little bit more of a third down receiving role than he's had in the past. So I like Gus Edwards quite a bit. The Broncos defense on paper, it's still really bad against running backs. I think they rank dead last. But for me, I think for me, it comes down to the offense. I'm excited about the Ravens matchup against the Chargers. I think they're going to be able to move the ball a lot. Whereas the Browns Broncos game, that game doesn't have a lot of points implied in it. As I'm looking at it right now, there's 37 and a half implied total points for the Browns Broncos, whereas the Ravens Chargers game's up to 48. So there's, almost 1.5 more touchdown opportunities in that game. So I'm going Gus Edwards here, David. I still like Jerome Ford. I think he's going to be a good play today. Actually, on my player prop show, I put him down for a touchdown today, but I think I'm going with Gus Edwards in this one because he's just been the hot hand. And I am seeing Gus Edwards as minus 105 to score a touchdown today. Whereas Jerome Ford, I believe he's a bit more of a long shot to score. So Gus Edwards minus 105 to score, and Jerome Ford is plus 170. So I'm going to ride the Gus bus. How high do you think Marvin Harrison Jr. will go in fantasy next? So that's a great question there. I think for me, as I look at the 2024 NFL draft order, you're looking at Chicago having the first overall pick. That probably is a quarterback or they traded away. Arizona has the number 2 overall pick right now. I don't hate that. I don't know if they're going to commit to Kyler Murray or go with another quarterback here. New England at the 3rd pick scares the hell out of me because they just seem to mess receivers up. So I don't want them to go to New England. And then you have Chicago holding the 4th pick again. So assuming Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Bears, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Bears again, or maybe the Giants. Maybe the Giants sneak in there and steal him. But it really depends on his landing spot and who this quarterback is. I think for now, you talk about a potential legendary receiver in the draft here. He's probably going to be pushed into the 3rd round of fantasy drafts this year. If you guys remember, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba was being drafted in the 5th or 6th round. I think even when Jamar Chase came out as a rookie, and he was what? He was at the 6th overall pick or something like that, right? I believe he was a 4th or 5th round pick. So I think for Marvin Harrison Jr., you're probably looking at the 3rd or 4th round for fantasy drafts. And again, it depends if you're a 10 or 12 man league, but I think somewhere, around somewhere in the 40s, maybe in the low 50s for Marvin Harrison Jr. But again, it depends on who his quarterback is, what the offensive system is. And yeah, I don't think we want him to go to New England. I'm open to Arizona being the best spot. Don't really trust the Bears to figure that out. But hey, if it's Caleb plus Marvin Harrison Jr., that could be kind of fun. Yeah. All right, Harris, we can clinch a number 1 seed today. I hope you get it, man. This is a fun time of the season now where we're starting to with that being said, it's time to start looking at playoff schedules, weeks 15, 16, and 17. Find your defenses that you want to be using. Find your backup running backs that you think have a good schedule. We can talk about that more in depth in the shows coming, this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, Harris. But it's definitely time to start looking towards the fantasy playoffs. Broncos or Steelers defense? Interesting question here. I do like both quite a bit today, but I think the Broncos at home have something going right now. They have a good amount of momentum. They're playing against a rookie quarterback here that has turned the ball over in the past. So I think the Broncos probably excite me a little bit here. I do like the Steelers because they're getting Jake Browning. But the Steelers being on the road, it's a divisional game here. I think the Bengals are going to play it kind of tight to the vest and just give him, easy throws here. So I like the Steelers defense today, but personally, I think I'm going to go with the Broncos at home against the Cleveland Browns. But it's a tough one. I can go either way. I'm going to lean Broncos defense today just because they've been playing so well. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, has been somewhat reckless in the few glimpses that we've seen him, but I'm going to go with the Broncos here. But hey, if you wanted to go Steelers, I don't have a problem with the Steelers defense today. I think they're both like top 5 defensive plays today. Oh man, round 11 in one league that year. So I was thinking of like my when I was doing best ball drafts that summer. I believe he was a fifth or sixth round pick. But now that I remember, a lot of people were nervous about Jamar Chase because he had been dropping passes in preseason and in practice. So he kind of fell a lot in casual redraft leagues. But usually, the best rookie receiver in a draft class, he's usually a fifth or sixth round pick, I believe. And yes, Derrick Henry touchdown today, maybe two touchdowns today. I think we're going to see a vintage Derrick Henry game today. And yeah, as the weather gets colder, Derrick Henry gets hotter. Aiden, I was looking at that. I like the Shaheed because he's getting the over 2.5 receptions is getting smashed. I think it was like minus 170 when I looked at it today or last night. But his yards are only they're 37.5 yards, and it was like minus 115. So if you like him to hit his 3 reception prop, he's probably going to go over 37.5 yards as well. So look at that one. I think the odds were a little bit more profitable, but I like Shaheed today quite a bit. It's a tougher matchup against the Falcons, but I think Shaheed is a player that needs to be looked at. And hey, if he's on your waiver wire, definitely go pick up Rashid Shaheed. But anyways, guys, we're at the half-hour mark here. If you guys do have any more questions, please fire them away. I can always answer questions on Twitter, Discord, wherever you guys need me. But I'm probably going to get out of here for the day. Enjoy the day, guys. We got some fun games throughout the day here. A lot of NFL playoff implications today. Saquon Barkley probably finds the end zone today. He's going to be a heavy piece of the offense. I agree with that one. And then Harris is asking, trade Amon-Ra St. Brown away for Romeo Doubs and Jordan Love, PPR Superflex. That was proposed to me. I probably need more information, Harris. Like I need to know, like, do you not have a QB2 right now? Because, Jordan Love and Amon-Ra St. Brown probably average, almost 17, 18 points a game right now. So if you need somebody, I don't hate it. Obviously, it's a downgrade from St. Brown to Romeo Doubs. Doubs has been playing well with the touchdowns. But if you need a quarterback too, I'm not opposed to getting Jordan Love. And the Packers' schedule the rest of the way, it looks pretty good, man. After they get past Kansas City next week in Week 13, the schedule just opens up completely. Let me pull it up here for you, Harris. Yeah, after Kansas City this weekend, you're gonna get the Giants, the Bucks, the Panthers, and they finish championship weekend with Minnesota. So that's probably the toughest game, but I do like the remaining schedule here for Jordan Love. I got the Jordan Love sweatshirt on today here, so always love the Jordan Love. You have Kenny Pickett, an Atlanta quarterback. Yeah, that's a big upgrade for you. Jordan Love over these two quarterbacks make a lot of sense. You never feel good starting Kenny Pickett or Desmond Ritter, but maybe St. Brown. I don't love trading away St. Brown. He's a stud. If there's any way to get Jordan Love in the deal here without trading away St. Brown, I think that's what I would try to do. So for me, I would say St. Brown's not moving. He's a guy that can get you 20 points any game. I would want to keep him if I can. And if you can find a way to get Jordan Love for some other resource players, I think I would do that. Maybe even send him one of the QBs and somebody else to get Jordan Love. I think that's probably where I'm going to go. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here for the day. We got an hour until kickoff, so I got some things to do and some lineups to set. But either way, good luck today, guys. Hope you guys get all the fantasy W's you need and hit all your props and all that good stuff here. So enjoy. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys in week 13. Peace.